Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, Opie started a new job and began a secret relationship with a coworker. Unbeknownst to him, she was married. After discovering her deceit, he confronted her and her husband at a restaurant, revealing her infidelity. The office's strict no-dating policy led to her termination, while he received a formal warning. Now let's get into the story. I, 28 male, met my ex, 30 female, when I started a new job and we started dating shortly after. Unfortunately, I found out that she was married and planning a family with another man not long after. Not that long ago, I got out of a really bad relationship and decided that it would be best for me to start over somewhere else. I had been wanting to leave my job for some time, and the relationship ending was the perfect opportunity for me to move and to do that. I ended up finding a job in Seattle, a place that I had always been interested in living. When I started, everybody was so friendly. I had always been the type of person who kept their work life and personal life separate, but it was easy to mix them in the new office. For the first time in my life, it truly felt like I had a work family. Everyone in the office loved Halloween, so they threw an annual party every year. I was excited to go. It was my favorite holiday, and I thought it was a great way to get in with my other coworkers. When I was there, I met perhaps the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. At first, I thought she must have been another coworker's date, or something because I hadn't seen her around the office. She noticed me as well and decided to strike up a conversation. I found out that she actually worked in the office and had been out of the country on business and returned just a few days before the party. The Halloween party surprisingly got kind of rowdy. There were a lot of people who indulged a little too much in the open bar and said and did some weird things. The woman that I met took the opportunity to kiss me. It escalated from there, and we ended up hooking up in the bathroom. I had never done anything like that, so I didn't really know what that would mean for us moving forward. I thought it might be awkward at first, and I didn't want anything to be uncomfortable between us. The party ended, and everyone went home. The following Monday, everybody came in and discussed how crazy the party was. I wasn't sure if the woman was going to be super excited to see me, so I didn't look for her. Around lunchtime, she actually found me, and we talked. She ended up telling me that she thought we had some kind of connection and didn't regret what we did. She then told me that the office had a strict no-dating policy, so we couldn't tell anybody about us. I didn't know anybody else in the office that well yet, so I didn't have anyone that I immediately wanted to run to tell about the new girl I was seeing. It was easy for me to keep that a secret from them. She and I dated in secret for a few months. We would sneak small kisses in the break room. We would hold hands under tables, and we would exchange longing glances at each other. I kind of liked sneaking around. She would come back to my apartment some nights after work, and we would hook up before she would go back to her apartment. I asked her why she never brought me to her place, and she told me that she had a roommate who would always knock her about having guests over. She also always made up excuses not to sleep over at my place, like not having clothes for work or having early meetings. I never suspected that the reason we were keeping our relationship a secret was because she was actually married. Here's the thing about that. She wore a wedding ring, and I didn't think anything about it. I didn't even notice because she wore a lot of rings. Honestly, before I knew she was married, I didn't even know what finger a wedding ring went on. So, maybe it was my own stupidity that kept it going for so long. One day, I was in the office and chatting with one of my coworkers when they casually mentioned going to dinner with my girlfriend and her husband. I felt my face go hot as soon as they said that. I clarified, not thinking that they had the right information, but they confirmed to me that she was in fact married. I couldn't believe it right away. I was dumbfounded by the information. I mean, how could I not have known she was married? She lied to me about our relationship. I needed to see for myself, so just out of curiosity, I texted her and asked her if she wanted to go out that night. She told me that she had some family over and couldn't. I couldn't help but think that was just another lie. I struck up a conversation with the same coworker later that day, and I asked them about where they were going for dinner. They started telling me all about the restaurant they planned on visiting. I had asked my girlfriend about social media early on in our relationship, and she told me that she didn't have any. I didn't have any reason not to believe that was the case, so I didn't have her on anything. After finding out that she might have been married, I searched her online and I found all the evidence I needed. She had been married for about 3 years, and from everything I saw online, it looked like they were very happy together. I was the other man in the relationship, and I didn't even know it. My blood was boiling at the thought of her lying to me so blatantly. I knew that I needed to confront her about it, and her husband needed to know about what she did. I tried to think of a way to do so calmly, but my impulsiveness got the better of me, and I decided to crash their dinner. I found the restaurant that my coworker told me they would be at, and I let myself in. I saw all 4 of them sitting at a table together, laughing and sharing a bottle of wine. The coworker that I had been speaking to earlier saw me and waved me over. They happily introduced me to their partner, as well as the husband of my girlfriend. Her face fell when she saw me. I could tell she knew exactly what was about to happen. I shook the husband's hand and wrinkled my eyebrows, pretending like it was the first time I heard she was married. I told her that she never told me she had a husband, otherwise I would have never been with her. I knew going in that she had a husband, but I played the victim as best as I could so she would be made out as this big villain. I told her that what she was doing was wrong, and everybody in the room looked very confused. I explained everything to them, and her husband confessed that he knew there was something going on. He stormed out of the restaurant, and she followed behind him. When they were gone, I explained everything in more detail to my coworker, especially about how she lied to me and told me that there was a strict no-dating policy in the office. Apparently, that was actually true. Dating within the office was prohibited to prevent trauma between the employees. There was a clause in our contracts that possible termination could be in order should that agreement be breached. The next time I was in the office, I went right to the HR department and disclosed the relationship to them. I explained everything, and I told them that it was likely there would be drama between my girlfriend and me, given the fact that she was a liar and a cheater. Part of me thought that I would be fired, and she would be allowed to keep her job because of seniority reasons. There was no reason to fire both of us, so if one person had to be fired, it would have been me. I was looking for other jobs and positions after I told them and waited for their decision. Come to find out, the coworker that was at the restaurant with her went to HR and explained everything that happened. They were clearly on my side in the events of everything and told HR that if anybody should stay, it should be me. I got a call from HR later that day telling me that the situation was handled and I was given a formal warning about dating in the office. But my girlfriend was terminated. It felt nice to know that they took my side in everything. It was good to know that they saw the right side and didn't just align with her, even though she was the cheater. My coworker told me a few months later that my ex-girlfriend was getting divorced from her husband, and actively looking for a job. Termination never looks good on your record. So I knew she would have been having a difficult time. I didn't know what else was going on with her, and I really didn't care. I actually reached out to her ex-husband to express how sorry I was. I genuinely didn't know anything about him, and as soon as I found out, I tried to correct the issue. He wasn't receptive to talking to me at first, which was understandable because he was probably in a lot of pain. After a few weeks, he reached out to me and told me that it was a difficult thing to hear, but he was glad that I told him what happened. They were actually planning on starting a family, so he was happy it ended before there were children involved. Today's second story. In this story, OP met his wife and was instantly captivated, believing she was genuine and uninterested in his wealth. After marrying her, he learned she'd been lying for years, cheating with an ex while pretending to visit her mother's grave. When confronted, she denied everything. Their prenup voided due to her infidelity. She received nothing in the divorce. Now let's get into the story. When my wife and I met, I immediately thought she was the most beautiful person I've ever seen. She was lively and vivacious, and she was completely captivating. I knew from the moment I laid eyes on her that I wanted her to be my wife. I asked her out, and she said yes. We dated for a few weeks, and I asked him to be my girlfriend. It was only a few months after that she moved into my house, and a few months after that we were married. It all happened very fast, and a lot of people in my life warned me against it. I have an incredible job, and I make 6 figures a year plus bonuses that I get every quarter. I'm not the wealthiest person on the planet, but a quick Google search will show my net worth. That made dating hard. It was always difficult to see who wanted me for me, and who wanted me for what I could do for them. When I started dating my wife, she didn't seem like she wanted anything for me. She always offered to split the bill when we went out. She got me little gifts every now and then when she could afford it. She never wanted me to buy her expensive things or take her out on fancy excursions. It seemed like she genuinely enjoyed my company. Of course, I wanted to treat her to those things. If there was ever any person that I thought deserved it, it was her. I knew that she worked hard to make the money that she had, and I wanted to take that burden away from her. When we got married, I told her to quit her job. I made more than enough to provide for both of us, and I thought she could focus on creative pursuits that she was more inclined to do. She resisted at first, but eventually, she agreed that it would be good for her. I know now that her resistance and refusal of gifts were all a ploy. I was manipulated from the beginning of the relationship to think she was something that she wasn't. She wanted me for my money, but she played it differently than all the other girls. Every month on the first Saturday, she would be completely unavailable to go on any dates or come visit me. It was like that from the start of our relationship. I asked her if she had any other options, but she said she didn't hear about what she did, and she told me that was the time she dedicated to visiting her mother. Her mother passed away when she was very young. She told me that she had gone to visit her grave every month since she was 8 years old to update her mother on her life. I thought it was sweet, and I never questioned it. Who would lie about something like that? I worked a lot, so unfortunately, I wasn't always home with her. I was usually gone by the time she woke up, and I came home around 7 or 8 p.m. usually. Whenever I was home, there was nothing suspicious happening. She was a very manipulative person, so she made sure she appeared to be the perfect, loving wife that I thought she was. She went to visit her mother one day, and I went on with my day as if everything was normal. I got a call from her in the late afternoon, so I answered the phone, but it wasn't her on the other end. It was the hostess at a restaurant in Manhattan. Apparently, my wife left her phone behind, and the woman was calling to try and get it back to her. She told me that her mother's grave was in Long Island, where she was from. She hadn't mentioned anything about going to Manhattan that day, so I was a little curious. The one on the phone asked me if I was the person that was there with her. She was hoping I could tell her to go get the phone. I told her to keep it behind the counter, and I would be going to get it. I had no idea who she was with. She heard a man's voice and assumed that I was the person dining with her at the restaurant. My wife hadn't mentioned anything about going to Manhattan, and especially not going to Manhattan to see a man. I ended up taking off work early and going to the restaurant that the phone was at. I picked it up and looked through it while I took a cab home. I knew her passcode, but I had never looked through her phone before. I felt like a major invasion of privacy, but given everything that I just learned, I felt like I needed to. I looked through it, and I found a conversation with a number saved in her phone as Penny. From everything else I saw, I knew that the name was fake. There were a lot of explicit pictures being sent back and forth, and it was definitely a man she was texting. There were messages that went back for years between them. Through the context of everything, it seemed like my wife had been dating this man and fallen in love with him. Unfortunately for her, he was broke. That's why she broke up with him. She wanted a certain lifestyle, and he couldn't provide it for her. Regardless of how she felt about him, she needed to make sure she was provided for. Even though they broke up, they still saw each other once a month and slept together. It was like an agreement of sorts that they had. The man asked about me in the messages too. He asked her if I was pleasing her, and if she thought about him while she was with me. She told him that she thought about him all the time, even when she was sleeping with me. My wife asked him about a woman that we'll call Lee. He told her that Lee was nothing compared to her. It was clear that they were both cheating on their partners. They had feelings for each other, and because my wife ended the relationship, he tried to move on with someone else, but couldn't. My wife lied to me and told me she was visiting the grave of her dead mother to cheat on me with this guy. It was honestly unbelievable. She wasn't at home when I arrived, so I tried to prepare myself for when she got back. I sent myself as many screenshots of their conversations as I could because I was going to need them to divorce her. She wanted my money, and I wasn't going to let her have any of it. When she got home, I could tell that she seemed exhausted. She looked disheveled, and I could tell that she was just out cheating on me. It was just something you could see on her. She was surprised to see me home, and I told her that I got a call from the woman at the restaurant, and I shut her the phone. Her face fell immediately. I had no doubt she assumed I'd looked through it. I asked her who she was at the restaurant with, giving her a chance to at least tell the truth before I broke the news to her. She told me that it was an old friend that she used to model for when he was painting. She said that he wanted her to be in a portrait. She threw on a fake smile while she lied to me and tried to stick with what she was saying. I guess she thought I was just that clueless. I told her that I knew everything about the guy she was seeing. I told her that I knew about Lee and how they were both having affairs, and I told her that I knew that she was only with me because of my money. She tried to tell me that none of that was true and that I was wrong about what I interpreted from the messages. There was no interpretation. It was written out in front of me, and I read it for what it was. I gave her a week to get her things out of the house, and I told her that we would be getting a divorce. When it came to the divorce, she thought that she was going to take me for half of everything I had. I remember sitting down with her and our divorce attorneys while she gave me a smug look she thought she won. We signed a prenuptial agreement, yes? According to that, if we ended the marriage, she would be entitled to assets. Unfortunately for her, she cheated on me, so the prenuptial agreement was voided. She didn't get a dime from me. She had no money in savings and no job. I kicked her out of the house, and she was forced to go live with her father. I almost didn't want to tell Lee about their affair because I figured they would likely break up and that could give my wife somewhere to go. However, I decided it was the right thing to do. I found out who she was and I reached out to her and explained everything, showing her some of the screenshots that I had. She was completely shocked. She reached out to me a couple of weeks after I told her everything and thanked me. She hadn't even considered her boyfriend would cheat on her, and they were getting to a very serious stage in the relationship. She was glad somebody showed her his true colors before she made that big step. I've been wary of people's intentions with me for a very long time. Unfortunately, I feel like I've been minutes manipulated in this past relationship and I am somewhat closed off to them now. Honestly, I would have rather dated somebody who was upfront about their motives from the beginning rather than somebody who lied to me and made me believe they were someone else.